Hey guys, and welcome back to the Copper Creek Patterns YouTube channel. I'm Ashley from Charmed by Ashley and one of the designers from Copper Creek Patterns. Today we have some super exciting news for you. We have a brand new pattern release called the Farmhouse Chic skirt, and here it is here. This is the one we're going to be making in this video, but as you can see, I'm already wearing it because it's super cute and comfortable, and I absolutely am obsessed. This is my new spring and summer skirt. I can already tell. It is made out of a beautiful woven fabric. This is linen, so you can grab cotton linens or just cotton or just linens, something beautiful, woven, flowy, something that's going to keep you nice and cool in the summertime. All the information for this pattern will be in the description box below. You can go over to the Copper Creek Patterns website and grab this. It will be on sale for a limited time since this is a brand new release, so grab it today. This is going to be a super easy pattern if you're a beginner sewist and you're thinking, oh my goodness, there's buttons, there's plackets, there's ruching, there's gathering. Don't worry, I'm going to be with you the whole way. It's going to be super fun and easy, and I'm really excited for you guys to sew up this skirt with me. So if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, like if you enjoy this video, comment if you have any questions, and hit that notification bell so you can be alerted of new pattern releases from Copper Creek Patterns. Also, if you're not already following us over on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all those links will be down in the description box, as well as my links to all of my stuff, which is Charmed by Ashley if you don't know who I am. So without further ado, let's just get straight into the tutorial. Okay, I'm gonna go over some of the things you're gonna need for this pattern. So I am using woven fabric for this skirt. I'm using a light cotton linen. You can use cotton or just linen. Really, you can use whatever woven fabric you think would be beautiful as a skirt. I really love this one. It presses nicely and it has a beautiful linen look to it. Not in love with the color, but we can always dye the fabric, which is something that I just might plan to do. You're going to need 6 1-inch or 125 millimeter buttons, and then you're going to need some about 1 yard, probably far less, but just have at least 1 yard of 1-inch wide waistband elastic. And keep handy, this little interfacing piece here is actually going to be a placement guide for your buttons, so keep this handy for at the end when you're ready to install all of your buttons. Okay, so hopefully you have everything ready to go and we can get straight into the tutorial. First we have our back pattern piece. This one will be cut on the fold. We have our front pattern piece. This one is not cut on the fold, and be mindful that we will have some gathering notches. And you can also notch where we're gonna have the fold line for our front button placket. We have 2 pieces for our front waistband. These pieces are gonna have some lightweight fusible interfacing on the backs. We will also be applying some lightweight fusible interfacing onto the button placket area. So we have 2 of those pieces. Okay, so the only other thing you need for this skirt is some elastic. I'm going to be using 1-inch wide elastic, and you're gonna follow the chart that's in the pattern so that you can learn what your size is for your size skirt. And last but not least, we have our pocket pieces. They are cut mirrored. So we have 2 for each pocket. Again, this is optional, so if you don't want to put pockets in your skirt, you don't have to. We also want to make sure that our notches are marked for our pocket placement if we are choosing to do a pocket. So the first thing we're going to do is prepare all of our interfacing pieces. So we're going to be doing the waistband first. I have my interfacing cut. There is a pattern piece provided for that, and I have it laying on my ironing board with the glue side up. I'm going to take my pieces and I'm going to put them on top with the wrong sides down. I like to iron my interfacing from the fabric side. And with a hot dry iron, we're going to go ahead and we're going to iron these, and it's going to melt the interfacing so that it's stuck to the back of our fabric. Now we're going to take the flat side of our front skirt piece, and making sure that the wrong sides are up, we're going to take our interfacing and we're going to lie it along that flat side. Now if I am doing it from the top of the interfacing, I usually just like to lift my iron and move it. I find that ironing like this tends to make it shift. And this is what has worked for me. Now I'm just laying my pattern pieces opposite to each other just because it's hard to tell which is the right or wrong side. So I'm placing them opposite to each other, and then I'm going to put my interfacing on in the same place. And if there's any extra, I'm just going to snip that off. I'll just give it one more press from the top. And if there's any hanging off the edge, feel free to trim that off too, just so that we can get a very beautiful hem when we go to sew down our button placket. Since we're already at the iron, I'm gonna go ahead and pre-iron my waistband, which is just folding up both sides by 1 centimeter. And for inches, that's 3/8 of an inch. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the second. Okay, so I have both of my skirt front pieces laying on my table with them mirrored, so the interfacing is on the inside. We have 2 notches, and that's going to be our gathering notches that I already placed right here. They should be about 7.5 to 8 inches in length, depending on which size skirt you're going to be sewing up. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna sew a basting stitch. We're gonna sew 2 rows of basting stitches right along this edge at about a 5 stitch length, and then we're going to gather those stitches and bring them in. And I'm gonna do the exact same thing on the other side. We're gonna find our first notch, and we're going to place our needle there. And we're gonna pull on the thread a bit, just so that it is longer. And we'll start sewing with a 5mm stitch length. And we'll stop at the second notch. We're not going to cut our threads. We're going to lift our needle, pull it out with a tail, and then snip. And we're going to do that one more time, very close together. And we're going to repeat that with the other side of this front skirt. Okay, so now we're going to take our 2 bobbin threads and we're going to gently pull on them. try to have some clips or pins handy. And we're going to gather them down to as much as the pattern says to do. So I am making a size 20 and I'm going to gather it down to 3 inches. So just have a ruler handy so that you can measure that. We want the 2 notches to be 3 inches apart. So there's my 3-inch mark and the notch is here, so I need to gather it about another inch. So to make sure everything stays gathered nicely, I'm just gonna pinch it with some clips. And if you want to baste over top of this also, just to make sure it stays into place, you're welcome to do that as well. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and do that with the next one. And there we have it. Both of our little pleats have been gathered. Now that we have our skirt front gathered, we're going to go ahead and take the front waistband, and we have it already folded. So we're going to line up with the right sides together, the waistband with the top of your skirt front piece. Now this is where you will know if you didn't gather it or you gathered it too much, because if this little pleat isn't right, it's not going to fit nicely with this front waistband. But that's okay, because if you haven't basted it into place, then you're able to kind of finesse it to make everything fit nice and evenly. And because we already have it ironed, we're just gonna sew down that folded edge right there. I'm gonna repeat these same steps with the other piece. And now you can see here how we have a little bit of left over right there. And that's just because it needs to be gathered right here. So I'm just going to take it down to that notch, and then we can just pull on our threads again to gather it up and then pin everything nice and flat. Okay, so again, we're just going to sew down that fold line on both of our pieces. Make sure everything is nice and even. You can check your pleat to see if you like it. If it doesn't look good from the other side, you can undo your stitches here and adjust your pleat to make sure that it's nice and even. I'm not loving the way this is looking, so I'm probably going to pick it out real quick and sew that a little bit differently. But we're going to go ahead and do the next one really quick. I think that one looks a lot neater. Okay, so now we're going to put our pocket pieces in. If you're not ready to do pockets, You can go ahead and skip over this and then just keep going, and then just omit the parts where I sew the pocket. But for now, we have our notches placed. This is the left side of the skirt with the right sides facing up. We have our notch, and then this is the back of the skirt with the right sides facing up, and we have our notch marked. We're gonna take 2 of our pocket pieces that are mirrored, and we're going to place that on top. So this is actually going to be the right side of our pocket piece with the right side of the skirt, and we're going to line up the top of that pocket. So this is the flat edge that's going to line up with your skirt, and this is sort of the pocket bag as they call it. And we're going to take the other piece, and making sure that it's mirrored, we're going to lay it along that side seam edge again. And we want to make sure that this is lined up perfectly, so that when we go to put the skirt together to do the side seams, that the pocket pieces are going to come together. So we're just going to go ahead and pin that into place to make sure that it doesn't move around. And we're just going to sew along this edge with a 3/8 seam allowance, or 1 centimeter. And you can just pin the whole pocket down so that it doesn't move around or flap over when you're sewing it. We're going to do this exact same thing on the opposite side of the skirt. We're just going to do the opposite side of this, and then we're going to go get our other skirt front panel and do that again on the right side. So I'm just going to take this, move it out of the way. We'll take the back piece, find the other side seam, place our other skirt piece right next to it, making sure that our notches are lined up. And you can take the pocket placement as a suggestion. Most people like to have it about 3 or 4 inches from the waistband, but that can change depending on your height. We're just going to do 5 inches from the top here. So just making sure that we have the same amount on both sides. So when we line up those side seams, they are exactly the same. So I'm going to take my pocket lining and do the same thing. Now that we have our pockets sewn in, I'm going to go ahead and take my iron, and I'm just going to press it nice and flat. And I'm going to do a top stitch right along here just to finish it off. I'm going to do it really close, about 1/8 of an inch away from that seam, and it's going to make it look polished and beautiful. Okay, so now we're going to create the casing for our elastic on the back of the skirt. So we have the back skirt ready to go. We have our pockets installed. This is the wrong side. So we're going to fold down 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch, and then we're going to fold down It's straight here, so you'll know where, when it starts to veer off, that is where that elastic casing is going to be. So I'm going to heat up my iron and we will start pressing. Now make sure you go into the pattern to make sure that you know what length of elastic you're going to need for your size skirt, and you can have that cut and ready to go. This should measure about 1.5 inches though, so just keep that in mind. Then we're just going to go ahead and sew along this line to hem it up. Okay, so we sewed down our hem and now we can thread our elastic. I cut my elastic and I checked the chart to make sure that I have the right amount for my size. I'm going to be using this type of threading tool. You can use a safety pin or a bodkin. I really like this one. It's really fast and easy. So all I do is I'm going to have 2 clips also handy. And I'm just going to hook it on. And I'm going to pull it through the casing. Once I get to the end there, you're just going to clip it and then you'll keep pulling it. Just kind of gathering the fabric. And then we'll do the same thing down here. And we'll put another elastic. And we'll put another clip. Now at this point you can baste the ends here so that the elastic doesn't fall into place, and you can just kind of evenly distribute the elastic, and look at how pretty that looks. I'm going to go ahead and baste off camera, but that just means you're just going to put a few stitches and then you don't need to worry about the clips falling out and you losing your elastic. Okay, so that is it for the back piece. All we need to do with this is attach it to the rest of the skirt and then hem it. But now we're going to go ahead and work on the front, and we're going to iron and hem the plackets. I'm going to work on the first one, and we're going to work on in the same way. Where this is our button placket, we're going to be folding it up 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch and then folding it again. Now if you put a mark for that fold line, then you'll know, but this should measure 2 inches once it's folded. So just have a ruler handy so that you can make sure that it's nice and even all the way down, because this is going to be the front of your skirt. It's going to be the most visible, and we want to make sure that it looks the prettiest. Okay. We're going to go all the way up to the waistband. And as you can see, just fold that in. And for this part, I'm just going to fold it in this way. And then I can fold that back down. Try to make it nice and even. Like that. And then we'll go back down and fold it one more time. And if you left a little marking, we're going to get our ruler, make sure that it is 2 inches. And this is just because our button's going to be 1 inch, so I think it's going to create enough space to have the button within the button placket, and it's going to look really nice. And then from there, we're just going to press down the top waistband so that we can give ourselves a memory crease. But we're going to sew the button placket first. And this waistband should measure 1.5 inches. So go ahead and take your ruler and make sure. All right, looking good. So we're just going to sew this portion down. But first I'm going to go ahead and iron up the other side of the skirt. Okay, so now we're going to take this and we're going to fold it back. And I'm going to use pins for this part. And I wanted to cover up our stitches here. Remember, this is the inside of the skirt. So I just want to be able to pin it, cover up those stitches, and try to sew it from the front so that we can catch this. Sewing it from the front will make it look better because since it's the front. But if you want to sew it from the back, I would create your stitch line with your pins and then just sew along the pins so that you can try to keep your stitches on the waistband to make it look a little neater. But as long as you sew from the front and you know that this comes down a little past this part, you should be able to catch the back and then top stitch the front, and it'll look really pretty and nice. From there, if you want to do another top stitch along this edge just to mirror this top stitching and creates a nice look with the buttons, you're welcome to do that as well. Okay, so now we're going to take our front panels and we're going to put them with the right sides together with the back skirt, lining up our pocket pieces. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the back waistband and line it up with the top of our front waistband. And I already went ahead and did the other one. But what you're gonna do is bring your two pockets together. If you don't have any pockets, you're just gonna line up your side seams and then that's all you need to do. But with the pockets, we wanna make sure that those are lined up really nicely. But we're gonna make sure that the sides are the most important thing. So we're just going to line up those really well. I'm going to go to the bottom of the pocket and again line up those really well. There's the top stitching. We want to mirror that and make sure that the seam allowance is towards the pocket piece. So as you can see, clip that. And then we'll just clip all the way down the side seam of the skirt. So we repeated the same thing on the other side. So we're just going to go ahead and do a 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch seam allowance down both sides. And you're going to go around the pocket. So we're going to go up here, kind of do a little box, and then go, I'll show you a closer look. But you just want to make sure that you're going up and around, and then so we're not closing up that pocket. We're going to go up. We're going to leave our needle in and we're going to turn it. We're going to go across. We're going to, again, and with a 1 centimeter, 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, go around the pocket bag. And so up to the waistband. Okay, so we have done our side seams, and because I have a very fraying type fabric, I'm going to go ahead and use my serger to finish off these seams. But if you don't have a serger, you can use your zigzag stitch, you can use your pinking shears just to trim it off. But today I'm going to use my serger. Now it's very tricky getting around the pocket, but just make sure you don't cut through your stitches. This also will reinforce your pocket so that if there's any holes in it, it'll stop that from happening, because the stitch for the serger or your zigzag will be a lot stronger. Okay, so now we can flip it right sides out and we can check out our pocket if you have a pocket. And because the pocket's already on the inside, you can almost see that it is virtually undetectable, which is amazing. But I'm gonna go ahead and press it just because it makes it look so much prettier. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hem the bottom of our skirt, and we're going to do that first because we want to make sure that it's the correct length so that we can space out our buttons evenly and beautifully. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold up the skirt 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch, and then we're going to fold it up 1 full inch or 2.34 centimeters. So we're just going to start from one side and go all the way across and then fold it up again. And zip off any loose threads. Okay, so before we hem the skirt, what I want you to do is I want you to take the front button placket and I want you to overlay it on top of each other as if you're going to wear the skirt. You can take some clips and you can line up the top and then make sure that it's evenly nice and not wrinkled all the way to the bottom. And then we're going to see if this is the same length, because if you accidentally hem this a little bit too much, you weren't precise, or you folded this up a little too much on one side or the other, you're going to find out that one side is longer than the other, and that is what we have in this instance. We almost have, we have a full 1/2 inch difference, and you're going to see that in your skirt. Okay, I went ahead and hem this. We might want to put this on a dress form if you have one, or wrap it around your body just to make sure that it all looks nice and even. The hem, make sure it's nice and even, because if it is off by that much, then it might make it look a little uneven. So just, you can also keep that in mind. But now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hem, sew all the way around to finish hemming the skirt. So the last thing I'm going to do before installing my buttons and my buttonholes is I'm going to do one last top stitch right along this edge, and that's going to close up this hole here, and there's another hole down here, and that's going to go on the other side. And again, it's going to add that extra detail to sort of frame in the button placket. So the buttons that I chose are going to be 1 inch or 125 millimeter white buttons. Of course, choose the button that you want, that you think looks the prettiest. I'm going to be using 6 buttons, but again, do what you wish. If you think less or more look better on your skirt. So if you want to cut this paper, cut little lines in here, and you can mark it with your chalk, or you can just lay it beside. I'm just going to do that halfway, and I'm just going to mark. And then once it's moved out of the way, I can make sure that it's centered better. And this is how far low I want to go with my button, just to give it some room so that you can walk with it. But if you want to have a lower button, you're welcome to do that as well. So just remember that this one is going to be going this way, and these ones are going to be going straight down. Okay, so now when we go over to our sewing machine, we're going to use the button that we have for our buttonhole foot. We're also going to keep in mind that we want to test out our buttonhole first, okay? So get some scrap fabric, preferably some that is already interfaced and exactly the same as the project you're working with, just to make sure that we know that it will go into the machine beautifully and we don't have any hiccups, because once we put that buttonhole into our skirt, it's going to be a pain to remove. So we just want to do our due diligence and do a little test run and make sure that everything is going to run smoothly when we actually do it on our skirt. Okay, so for my machine, I have a baby lock. Here's my presser foot, my buttonhole presser foot. I have this little guide here that I have to pull down when I use it. My button here is in the back. So of course we have videos on how to install buttons, but it's really actually super simple. You just need to make sure you know how your sewing machine works. So I went ahead and created a buttonhole. There's several different styles of buttonholes. I kind of like this one for the top one, and then I'm going to kind of go plain, I think, for the next 5. So now that I have this one done, and it is the size of my button, I'm going to take my skirt, and I can now put it on top and see where I need to start. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut. And there might be a better way to do this, but this is just what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this right on here, and I'm going to be able to tell exactly where that buttonhole should fall. I'll take some chalk, and I'm just going to mark. That is where my starting point is. So now I'm going to take it, and when you put it into the machine, the buttonhole wants to start here, and then it moves back. So don't start from this part, you gotta start from the front, if that makes sense. And then there's red little guides on the inside, and we can find our little, and make sure that it's even on both sides, and you'll know that you're right in the middle. Make sure that all your settings are correct and your button is in there nice and secure, and then I can just start.
Now, as you saw, I was slightly helping it along, and that is only because it's a little thick. So you can kind of see that there was a little bit of like a little too much thread in that one spot, and that's just because it was a little too thick and my machine was struggling, so I just went ahead and helped it along. But that's just because this part is kind of thick. The rest is going to be just fine, and we're going to do them this way. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take that little piece again, that little buttonhole. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to test out another buttonhole. I think I'm going to do just the regular 59, so it's a box. So I'm just going to change it over, and I'm going to again just test it out onto this fabric. Oh, see? I need to make sure that it's not going to give us any problems. So now I'm going to place my other button. This button is a little closer to this one just because there's more stress on this area. But what I like to do is I like to just kind of put that there, put that on top. It looks good. Then I'm just going to mark where we're going to begin. And then we'll make sure we don't get confused as to the markings. Make sure that it is evenly centered in the button placket. And then pedal to the metal. So now we have all of our buttons placed, and we can take our seam ripper and pierce the one end, and you can cut it open. Make sure you don't cut through the buttonhole. If you're not comfortable with doing that, you can put a little pin at the beginning, or at the end at least, and then when you go to put your seam ripper in, it'll stop on that pin. So I think I'm just going to do just the top 3, just because I don't think it's necessary to have all of them, but you can do as many or as little as you want. But now I'm going to go ahead and install my buttons. So I'm just going to fold it onto itself as if I were going to be doing it up. And then I'm going to take my chalk and I'll put it through the buttonhole to mark where I want my button to be placed. Just kind of in the center. And then after that, we are going to place our buttons where we want them to be permanently installed, and you can take a pin and pin your button plackets together. And if you want more security, you could easily pick a spot, if you still want it to be opened at the bottom, just sew along one of the stitch lines so you can't see it. And you could do it on this side, and then it would still kind of appear like it was open, even though it would have that permanent, what do you call it? You know, you could just do it right here, and then there's no, you know, opening up while you're sitting down or all the things. But I'm gonna go ahead and sew on all of my buttons by hand, and then I'll show you when we're all done. Okay, so we're done. So I went ahead and did top stitching about this much. I could have done a little higher, and so now you can't see in the skirt at all. The buttons work 1, 2, 3. And they turned out really good. I'm super happy with it. So now I'm gonna try it on for you guys so you can see.
Okay, so what do you think? How cute is this? I love pairing it with just a simple tank top. You can wear it with or without a cute little cardigan or sweater. I am obsessed with this skirt. And like I said before at the beginning of the video, this is gonna be my new summertime skirt. You're gonna see me farmers markets everywhere, right? So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, of course, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment down below if you have any questions. And again, all the pattern links and everything will be in the description box below, so you can go over to the Copper Creek Patterns website and download the pattern. And if you do make this, I would love to see it. So please come over to our Instagrams and please tag Farmhouse Chic Skirt and let me know, because I want to see it. I'm so excited to see how yours turns out. And thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you guys in the next tutorial. Bye guys!